Hey, well, hello and welcome back. It has been so long since I've been live, so I'm feeling a little weird, but we have such a great topic to cover today, so I could not have chosen a better day. Angular v13 is here, and we have to understand what are all the features, the nitty gritties, and everything related to Angular. Now, you might think that well, Mark Thompson, and if in case you don't know Mark Thompson, he is simply a great person, a great developer. He's in the Angular core team of Google, and he wrote actually this article that Angular v13 is now available, and with all the features, diving deep into them, all the breaking changes, etc. And you might think, like any other developer, that why do we need to see this video if this article by Mark Thompson is already there? Well, I spent last 2 to 3 hours demystifying each and everything that Angular did behind the scenes because some people know that yes, Angular removed IE 11, Internet Explorer 11 support. But why did they do that? What is the background? What improvements will it do for its users and developers and the Angular team itself? Then what is View Engine? Why did they remove it? What is Ivy? What is component API improvements that Angular has done? What is persistent disk cache, etc., so on and so forth. And if you don't know these things, well, you're at the right place because I am here. I literally have written notes about these. As I said, I have been reading for the last 2 to 3 hours, trying to understand all the nitty gritties, trying to understand all the things that happen behind the scenes, and help you understand how these things are made and how Angular 13 version is going to make your life much easier, much better, either you're a developer or an end user of a website made in Angular. So let's start looking into it. First of all, they talk about IV everywhere. Now, if you are like me and you didn't know what IV is, well, don't worry, I got you covered. Ivy actually is a new rendering engine of Angular, and it's not really new now. It was released in Angular 11, sorry, and it's the fourth rewrite of the engine. But why this engine is so powerful? Well, the reason behind that is that Ivy came with huge improvements. If you want, I will link to this article down in the description after the live stream ends. Ivy came with huge improvements to your application. Now, improvement like what? Well, components are now compiled and rendered independent of each other. So basically, if you have 100 components on your website and you just made a change in component number, let's say 75, earlier what used to happen is all 100 components used to recompile, rebuild, and then you would see that in your development environment in the browser. Now, with Ivy, what Angular did was Angular said, well, why do we need to recompile 100 components if just component number 75 was updated? Well, they made all the components independent, and Ivy just did that. It just now recompiles the component that was changed, making your build time like 100 times faster. And the same thing, Ivy also follows a tree shaking methodology. Now, tree shaking is used widely across web development and programmers. It basically means that whatever you don't need would go away. It will just shake off the things that are not used. For example, unused code, unused libraries. Well, Angular says, why do we even need that? If there's some code that we don't need, if there is anything that you don't need in your Angular project, it can be your written code or it can be a library that you have downloaded. Well, Angular will simply remove the support for that and simply not compile that, making again your website smaller and faster. So let's move on. This says that they removed View Engine. View Engine is no longer available in Angular as of v13. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, View Engine is not available in Angular 13, and trust me, that's a great news. That's a great news for you because now, again, this would make your websites faster. View Engine, if you don't know, was the old rendering engine that Angular used. Now, if you have been hearing me, Angular uses IV. But because Angular version 10, 9, 8, and before that didn't have IV and used View Engine, Angular was supporting View Engine even for newer versions of Angular, because in case you are using a library or anything like that that is built with old engine, which is the View engine, right? Now Angular has removed that. So basically, all the boilerplate code that came with View engine is now removed. Again, making your website faster, but it says that it has reduced its reliance on NGCC. NGCC is basically Angular compatibility compiler. It, it makes your websites and Angular projects compatible in case they are older versions or anything like that. Now, what this means is that with Ivy, Angular 13 does not use view engine, right? But what if your website itself was using a library in Angular that was built with Angular 8? And yes, I see you. Hi, Panda. I appreciate you being here. And coming back to Ivy, well, let's assume that your Angular 13 project is using a library that was using maybe Angular 8 library, right? Now, it is of no one wants that the library stops working in your Angular v13 project. No one wants that, right? Not the library owners, not your project managers, and not even the developers who have created the project with Angular 13. No one wants the support for all libraries in your project to go away simply because they were not built with Angular 13. That is why they still have NGCC, which helps Angular components or libraries built with older versions to still work in your updated projects, but they have reduced the reliance. Again, making your website faster and smaller because a lot of files are no longer included in your Angular project. Then there are some changes to the Angular package format. Again, these are some API improvements, and again, reduce in NGCC, which will help your package output faster and leaner. But component API updates is also a good thing, but it's not really like something that is going to change your life. It's just an improvement, and because we are now simply using IV and we are no longer dependent on View Engine, we can actually create dynamic components faster. If you don't know what dynamic components are, we will be covering that soon in our Angular weekly videos. We have Sunday live streams for Angular, and we are building a project together. If you don't know about that, search on our YouTube channel. You will find a live stream, a playlist on Angular, and you will find all the videos based on that. So basically, earlier dynamic components needed to be first resolved and then created. But with Ivy, they can simply be created. So it's like an improvement for developers, nothing really awesome. This is one of the things that I'm most excited about. End of Internet Explorer 11 support. I've actually written 1.5 page just for that because it's so important and it's so awesome, and you will appreciate it as a developer if you use Angular. I hope you do. Well, first of all, let me give you some stats. Only 0.73% of the people in the whole world use Internet Explorer. I'm still surprised it's a huge number, but 0.73%. So pretty insignificant. 1.70% of the people use IE 11 according to Net Market Share survey. So again, around 1% of the people in the whole world depend on IE, Internet Explorer 11. Therefore, Angular has removed the support for Internet Explorer. Angular has said, their official team has said, that IE 11 is going to be the last non-evergreen browser. What do you mean by non-evergreen browser? Well, non-evergreen browsers are basically that are not maintained, that don't update with the new APIs, that have some security issues, but no one works on them. They are basically known as non-evergreen. Basically, the browsers no one cares about. Now, if your website has some clients or customers who still use Internet Explorer 11, Angular does not just throw you away. Angular says you have until November 2022. Angular v12 had just deprecated IE but not removed Internet Explorer support. So if you're using Angular 12, it has the long-term support till November of 2022. So you basically have almost a year before you tell your clients and customers to basically stop using IE 11. Now, you might think, well, IE 11 has been removed, it all sounds good, but what really is the benefit? Well, the benefit is threefold. Number one, benefit to the users. Number two, benefit to the programmers who use Angular. And number three, benefits to the Angular team themselves. Let me cover them one by one. Well, if I talk about benefits to the users, your websites are now going to be faster and smaller. You might ask how and why. Well, Angular shipped with a lot of boilerplate code, shipped with a lot of complex code inside the Angular engine itself to keep on supporting Internet Explorers. Basically, let's say you write a feature, right? You write a feature in which you use some new HTML5. Now, because IE11 does not support that, Angular had to compile your code and make it work with Internet Explorers. Therefore, Angular had a lot of files like polyfills, etc., that compile your code and made it work with Internet Explorers. Now, they don't have to do that anymore. Hence, Angular size is now reduced. The Angular core component library is now being reduced. Hence, your website will load much faster. Therefore, users will be happier. Use of modern web APIs would now be available. That is a lot of UX improvements, right? There are a lot of web APIs that Angular was not able to leverage until now because they still supported Internet Explorer 11, which is really a charity case. And now they're no longer doing that. Hence, users would see more awesome features, leaner websites, etc. Let's see the benefits to you and to me as a developer. Well, as we have already discussed, we would be able to use better APIs. A lot of things like geolocation, etc., have been so much improved with new HTML, CSS, etc., that you were not able to use before, but now you will be able to. And also, this is huge. Now your websites would be less risky because IE11 had a lot of security issues, right? Internet Explorer 11 had a lot of security issues and a lot of liabilities, which now no longer like affect you because now you are not really supporting IE, and all the security and vulnerabilities that came with IE are now basically gone for you. Anyways, let's see the improvements for Angular team themselves, which all in the end impact you as a developer. Angular team, now it's more easy for them to build features. They will be able to build features much faster. Why? Because again, they don't have to worry about Internet Explorer 11 breaking, right? And there are a lot of features that were not available before, which will be available now in Angular 13, 14, and the future versions. For example, basic things like CSS variables, CSS grid. Did you know that? Did you know that CSS grid was not supported because IE does not support CSS grid? Things like ECMAScript APIs would now be supported, and web animation APIs, and much more. A lot of things would now be supported with the Internet Explorer gone from the picture. And in case you didn't know, even Microsoft removed the support for IE, Internet Explorer, on August 17, 2020. So even Microsoft is like, yeah, we don't care about that. That was a mistake a long time ago. We have a new browser called Edge, which makes everything better. And, you know, Angular is just following what Microsoft said. Moving on, the next one really, really makes me happy because this is improvement to the Angular CLI. Now, this makes me really happy because this is not just something that will make the users happy, right? Angular is the only project, and obviously it's by Google. Angular is the only project that I think really cares about the developers as well, not just about the customers, the end users of the website, but also about the developers. How? Because now they have introduced persistent cache, which will improve your build speed by a whopping 68%. Sorry. So that means when you build your websites, when you do like ng serve, ng build, or any other ng command, that would almost be 68% faster. How? By simply doing this cache enabled true for your project. Now, in case you didn't know, caching was already available before. Caching basically means that let's say you have already generated a build for your Angular, and now you are doing it again. It would use the old cache saved in the memory and rebuild your new build much faster because it will use the old one, the old cache first, and see if there are any changes, etc. A lot of complex things behind the scenes which you don't need to worry about. But let me tell you something. Angular actually implemented this with v12, but they kind of made a mistake. They implemented the cache inside the node modules folder. Now, if you know anything about programming or anything related to node modules, they were not really able to leverage the use of cache, especially on continuous integration like production environments when you are deploying to production, let's say, and your cache is stored in node modules folder. Well, it's not really helpful because yes, it's obviously taking more memory, but node modules folder is the first folder that gets deleted and recreated when you deploy new code to production. And that's why the cache that Angular had built was never being able to use in the real world, right? Are you trying? Do you understand? If not, let me know in the chat or the comments. I will explain this more. But now Angular has removed the cache from the node modules and added it to the root directory, hence making it persistent. It will stay there in your project. It will even go to GitHub. If you have a GitHub or GitLab, it would even go on Git. And you don't really need to worry about that. You don't need to do code reviews. And actually, in Angular official channel, when they discussed the Angular v13 update, they themselves said that you don't need to check or do a code review on the cache itself because now it's persistent and now it will also go on Git. But you don't need to worry about that. It is just there to make your programming experience better and your build time faster. And if you do it on prod, which is optional, like if you do the environment all, only then that will run on prod, on production, I mean, only then it would execute there and also make your deployment to production much faster. But that is optional. But I'm really happy that it improves developer experience. And then there are small improvements that you don't really need to worry about. But this, the last and definitely not the least by any means, is accessibility improvements. Now, I have to say a big thanks to Angular and Google team because this is something that not a lot of frameworks, libraries, or even developers care about, right? Accessibility, because it's Google's mission to make websites and internet accessible to all people around the globe. Either they have some visibility issues or they have or they're old people who don't know how to operate touch screens, etc., properly, and just to make things easier for everyone, accessible for everyone. And Angular is doing just that. They're at least playing their role in that. And accessibility is also known as A11Y. It's just a short form used in web. Angular Material has made small improvements, but they are huge improvements for those people who have some issues in reading or understanding websites or mobile phones, etc. Let's see one example and you'll see and you'll understand much better. This is a comparison of touch target sizes of before and after. Left is before and right is the after. Now, earlier the checkboxes used to be very close to each other. Now they have more space, right? And why is this better? If you're thinking why is this better, well, because there might be some old people who don't really know how to touch things properly, and they might on the touchscreen phones they might want to check box like check, let's say kiwi in this case, but they check passion fruit by mistake, right? This is just small things that my father or my grandfather and like your, I'm sure your members of your family who are old, they don't know how to touch how to use touchscreen phones to properly in the first case, and then with these compact screens, it makes their life just more difficult. So the Angular team is working on to make these things easier for all sort of users. Not just that, if there are users who need some visual aid, etc., well, they also have brought some high contrast modes for multiple components in Angular Material. And again, if you're interested to learn Angular or Angular Material or anything like that, we have an Angular live course on our YouTube channel, which you can join obviously for free. And you would be able to learn a lot on how Angular projects are built, like how to learn them from scratch, so on and so forth. And I really recommend you to have a look and let us know if you like what we cover and if you learn something new, because this is our mission. We want everyone to be able to code, and that is basically what we do. We try to achieve. Anyways, moving on. So yeah, these are high contrast modes that are now also available by default in Angular Material, and you definitely should look them up. Before ending this video, I'll just say one more thing. Obviously, this is a video by Mark Texton. As you can see here, he was a guest on our channel, and it was just awesome to talk to him. So I recommend you to go and see that video. But before you do that, let me also tell you a small improvement that Angular made that improves your first contentful paint. First contentful paint is basically when your website is visible for the first time when it loads to your users. And now in Angular, you can have inline fonts. In Angular v11, they added the support for inline fonts for Google Fonts. Now they extended the support to Adobe Fonts. Basically, what this means is when your website loads, it has to download two things. First, for your website, and second, if there's a link to a text or to a font online, your browser have to go and download that font. Once they have downloaded that, only then they can show your website to the users, which obviously makes your FCP or first contentful paint slower and add delays to that. Now, with inline fonts, what it does is it first of all shows your text and then downloads the font and then applies the font. That means users will see your website much faster because now your browser doesn't have to wait for the font to be downloaded. So it's just a small improvement. Earlier it was just for Google Fonts, and now it's also for Adobe Fonts. Then there are some community improvements, even contributions, which are definitely not worthless. They are really awesome. But they're like we have discussed behind the scenes right now, and they are behind the scenes. So you really don't need to worry about them, but they will definitely make your coding experience much better. I am so impressed with this release. Angular releases a new version like every 6 months, if I'm not wrong, and they're doing such an awesome job in bringing out features and improvements to their library, to the Angular material, to RxJS support, from TypeScript support. Like they just improved the support for TypeScript from 4.2 to 4.4 in this release. Also, they supported RxJS 7.4. So they're just working on all angles. They're just improving Angular so much that I'm really impressed. And I think this is the framework that you should definitely choose in 2021, 2022, and years to come. And in case you didn't know or didn't hear before, well, this is the Angular course I was talking about. This is our weekly live course, and here we create Angular project from scratch. And every week we build it together live with you. So if you have any questions, anything you want to learn, you can come on the live chat and ask me the questions while I'm coding. This is just like a classroom experience for free, and it would be a valuable experience for you and for me. First of all, I have to thank you guys because I think the best way to learn something is to teach it, right? And I get the opportunity to come here and teach whatever I want to learn myself. And actually, Kritika does the same thing. Kritika creates awesome tutorial videos, so shout out to her as well. But Angular is my department. Angular is what I love, and I create videos on that. She creates more videos on Node.js and backend technologies and project management, etc. More to come on that. But I'm just very happy on Angular frameworks improvements, and I think this is the framework you should choose for the future, and this is here to stay. Now, before going out, I really appreciate for you to stick till the end of this video. Let me know if you learned something new. Let me know if you appreciate me spending 2 to 3 hours reading all the nitty-gritties about Angular releases and explaining them to you in as simple words as I could. Thank you very much again, and until next time. Bye.